If you're a higher-earning executive, you've probably noticed that a 401k just doesn't always cut it for retirement, and that's where non-qualified deferred compensation plans, or NQDC plans, step in. They are a really powerful way to supercharge your savings. But, as we're about to see, this tool is very much a two-sided coin, with incredible promise on one side and significant peril on the other. Okay, let's get into it.
So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll talk about the savings gap that these plans are built to solve. Then, we'll get into the very strict rules of the game, known as Section 409A. After that, we'll look at the promise of growth, before flipping that coin over to the peril. And we'll wrap it up with our analyst takeaway and outlook.
So, first things first, why do these plans even exist? Well, it really boils down to a pretty simple problem. As your pay goes up, the traditional ways to save for retirement just can't keep pace. For a lot of highly compensated people, a 401k by itself is just not going to get the job done. And this slide really gets right to the heart of their appeal. Over on the left, you've got your standard 401k, with those strict annual limits set by the IRS that we all know. But look at the right. The NQDC plan? No IRS contribution limits. None. This means executives can put away a much, much bigger chunk of their income. We're talking salary, bonuses, the whole shebang, and let it grow tax-deferred. At its core, an NQDC plan is really just a promise. It's a contract you make with your employer. You're basically saying, hey, hold on to a piece of my pay for now and pay it out to me later, maybe when you retire or maybe for a big goal like sending a kid to college. And the huge win is that in the meantime, that money gets to grow without the taxman taking a bite every single year. Now, you can probably guess that with the power to defer unlimited amounts of money, there have to be some serious rules, right? You would be correct. And that brings us to the critical framework that governs every single one of these plans today, Internal Revenue Code Section 409A. And to understand why these rules are so tough, you really have to look back at the history. Before 2005, you had scandals like Enron. What was happening was that some executives could see the writing on the wall, and they were accelerating their deferred comp payments to get their cash out right before the company collapsed. So Section 409A was created specifically to put a stop to that, to prevent that kind of abuse from ever happening again. And the rules they came up with are incredibly strict. The most important thing to get here is the inflexibility. Once you decide to defer your income for the next year, that's it. The decision is irrevocable. You can't just change your mind halfway through the year if your situation changes. And you can only get your money out when very specific things happen. If you mess any of this up, the penalties are just brutal. We're talking a massive 20% excise tax on top of your normal income tax. All right, so let's say you follow all those tricky rules. You lock your money away. What's the big payoff? Well, it all comes down to the amazing power of tax-deferred growth. Now, just take a look at this chart because it says it all. That yellow line, that's your money growing in an NQDC plan. The green line is the same amount of money in a regular taxable brokerage account. See how that yellow line just pulls away over the years? That's the magic. Your entire amount is compounding year after year without the drag of having to pay taxes on your gains along the way. And let's put a hard number on that advantage. Over a 30-year period, a single $100,000 deferral could end up being worth over $150,000 more than if it were in that taxable account. That right there is the incredible promise of NQDC. But like I said at the very beginning, this is a two-sided coin. And for every bit of that amazing promise, there is a hidden and very real peril. So now, let's flip that coin over. The growth looks fantastic. The tax savings are obvious. So what's the catch here? Well, there are two really big ones you need to know about. Okay, risk number one is the tax trap. See, you're making a bet. You're betting that you'll be in a lower tax bracket when you finally take the money out in retirement. But what if you're wrong? What if tax rates actually go up in the future? It's not crazy to think they might. You could end up deferring a tax bill today, only to face an even bigger one down the road. But this second risk, this is the one that's even more critical. That money you deferred, it's not really yours yet. It isn't sitting in some separate account with your name on it. It remains a general asset of your company. And that makes you an unsecured creditor. You have basically given your company an IOU, backed only by their promise to pay you back someday. And don't think for a second that this is just some theoretical, it'll never happen risk. Look at the recent collapse of Steward Healthcare. It is a perfect and frankly heartbreaking example. When that company went bankrupt, executives discovered that millions of dollars in their deferred compensation just vanished. Poof, gone. Because they were unsecured creditors, they were at the absolute back of the line, and their promised retirement nest egg was wiped out. So, where does this all leave us? Are NQDC plans a brilliant strategy or a dangerous trap? Well, the truth is, they're not automatically one or the other. It really depends entirely on a very careful look at the risks versus the rewards in your specific situation. So here's the key takeaway. Before you even think about deferring a single dollar, you need to have rock-solid confidence in your employer's long-term financial health. You also have to have a personal opinion on where you think future tax rates are going. And always, always remember, once you make that election for the year, it's locked in. There are no do-overs. It is a powerful tool, for sure, but it demands that you go in with your eyes wide open to the risks. Of course, every person's situation is completely unique. This is not financial advice.